back. In this next dark story, we will be talking about the haunted Forbidden City in China. The palace of screams, blood, and restless spirits. We will be exploring the dark history and chilling, horrific, mysterious. Close your eyes, relax, and listen. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The Forbidden City does not feel like a palace at night. It feels like a sealed tomb pretending to be architecture. Built between 1406 and 1420 under the Ming Emperor Zudi. This massive imperial complex became the center of Chinese power for more than 5 centuries, where emperors, concubines, eunuchs, servants, guards, and political enemies lived under a system of ritual, fear, silence, and absolute control. UNESCO describes it as the royal residence of Ming and Qing emperors and a supreme model of ancient Chinese palace design. But after sunset, the golden roofs and red walls become something else entirely. A maze of locked courtyards, moonlit stone paths, high thresholds, and black wooden doors that seem to breathe from the inside. The name, Forbidden, was not poetry. Most people were barred from entering, and even officials and imperial family members had limited access. The emperor alone could move freely through the heart of the palace. That is what makes the darkness worse. For centuries, people entered those gates and never truly belonged to themselves again. The horror of the Forbidden City begins with its human history. Behind the beauty were executions, betrayals, punishments, forced service, palace rivalries, and political assassinations carried out in silence, so the empire could wake up clean the next morning. Concubines were not simply romantic figures in silk. They were women trapped inside a machine of status, jealousy, surveillance, and obedience. Historical accounts describe how palace women were chosen, ranked, watched, and bound to the emperor's household, often with little real freedom once they crossed into imperial life. The deeper you imagine the palace at night, the more it stops looking like a museum and starts feeling like a prison with carved dragons on the roof. Every courtyard becomes a place where someone may have begged not to be taken. Every narrow passage becomes a throat. Every closed chamber becomes a secret that survived because everyone who knew it was too afraid to speak. One of the darkest historical wounds tied to the palace is the 1542 assassination attempt against the Beijing emperor, known as the Palace Plot of the Renine Year. According to historical accounts, a group of palace women attempted to strangle the emperor inside the Forbidden City. And when the plot failed, the punishment was horrifying. Executions followed, families were punished, and the palace absorbed the terror like smoke into wood. This is the kind of event that makes the ghost stories feel heavier. It is not hard to imagine a guard walking past an empty hall and hearing a rope tighten in the dark, or a woman's breath catching behind a curtain where no living person stands. The legend says the palace does not forget betrayal. It repeats it. At night, some say the corridors carry the sound of silk dragging across stone, followed by the wet, choking gasp of someone trying to scream without a voice. Then the doors knock once from the inside, then again. Then a woman whispers a name that has been dead for nearly 500 years. The most famous haunting claims surrounding the Forbidden City speak of a woman in white who appears after dark, weeping through the empty lanes before vanishing into the walls. Other stories tell of flute music drifting from sealed spaces, ghostly animals running through side corridors, and the feeling of something watching from behind palace windows that should be empty. These are reported legends, not verified facts, but they have become part of the Forbidden City's supernatural identity. The idea that the palace is not haunted by one spirit, but overcrowded with them, visitors have described sudden dread, strange presences, and the sensation of being followed. The truly demonic part is not that the ghosts appear angry. It is that they appear trapped. They do not attack like monsters. They wander like prisoners, a headless figure at the edge of a courtyard, a pale face reflected in black water, a hand sliding across a red pillar and leaving no mark. A soft weeping that grows louder only when you stop walking. Then there is the Well of Consort Zen, one of the Forbidden City's most chilling death mysteries. Consort Zen, remembered as a favorite of the Guangxu Emperor, died in 1900s during the chaos of the Boxer Crisis, and accounts connect her death to a well inside the Forbidden City. Some versions claim she was ordered thrown into it. Other interpretations question the details and argue the exact circumstances remain unclear because records are incomplete, censored, or disputed. That uncertainty is what makes the place terrifying. A confirmed death is one horror. A death swallowed by imperial silence is another. In ghost lore, wells are mouths. They do not simply hold water, they hold voices. At the Forbidden City, the story becomes almost unbearable. A young woman gone into the dark, a palace fleeing catastrophe, servants too afraid to remember aloud, and a tiny circle of blackness left behind like an open eye in the ground. Some say if you stand too close, you do not hear water. You hear someone below you breathing. That is why the Forbidden City remains one of the most terrifying haunted places in the world. Not because every supernatural claim can be proven, but because the documented history is already soaked in enough fear to make the legends feel possible. By day, tourists see symmetry, gold, dragons, carved marble, and imperial glory. But at night, the palace becomes a living wound. The wind slides under the eaves like a funeral chant. The stone courtyards turn cold. The empty halls seem packed with unseen bodies. Somewhere beyond a locked gate, a woman cries. Somewhere near the old walls, a headless shadow crosses where no shadow should move. Somewhere beneath all that red paint and royal silence, the Forbidden City keeps its dead awake. And if the guards are right, if the apparitions still wander,
if the weeping still rises, if the missing names still answer from behind sealed doors, then the palace was never abandoned by its ghosts. It was built to keep them inside.
Thank you for your support. And thank you for tuning into the darkest horror stories of your life. Some of the stories are based on true events or experiences. Please do us a favor. If you could hit like, share this video, and subscribe to our channel. Never listen alone, and stay tuned for a new horrors and stories.